Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Covenant Cast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Steven, and we are going to be looking at a bit of a 2018 recap because we're going to be out of here for the year. This is our last podcast. We'll talk about that a little bit, and I wish everyone a happy holidays. So join us. It's going to be a good time, a casual podcast, I would say, an enjoyable one. Stay tuned. All right, here we are. Happy holidays,
End
Zach.
of the year.
Merry Christmas.
Well, I think we should just end here. Fastest episode of the year. We're out of here.
Done. Well, let's talk schedules. Let's get the boring stuff out of the way. So we're not going to be casting next week. I think that's for sure.
I think the next 2 weeks we're off.
Week after that, we're also not casting.
Is that right?
Week after that, maybe casting, and week after that, probably definitely
No,
casting.
wait. So check this out. So next week is Christmas.
Yeah.
The next week is the week we're back. You're not back.
I'm not back.
But I'm back.
Right.
So it's possible that we only have 1 week where we're gone.
Okay. So
for the cast, I might get a Robert or a John or who knows, a Wild. I might just randomly pick someone.
Just pull someone. Well, so that's what we're up to. So at least next week we will not be podcasting. We hope that
We're streaming.
or streaming nothing.
Unless I could get a little frisky.
I don't know. We're leaving. You want to stream the
Christmas
turkey
Eve KeyForge. Here we go.
So we'll be out, and we should take a minute to really say it's been a 2018 full of a lot of content, a lot of podcasts, a lot of live streams, and it's been great to have an audience out there to listen and find value in that stuff. So from all of us for 2018, thank you so much for listening and writing and commenting and being a part of what we're doing, being interested in what we're doing, even if you don't communicate with us directly. There's a large number of people out there that are listening to this very podcast, and that fills us with you can't describe how much that truly means to us. We talk about it all the time off camera in ways that are very much about, wow, like that kind of a feeling. Wow, this is amazing.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. I've said this off and on throughout episodes all year long, but the fact that we have enough people listening and caring about what we have to say, that we have questions every week to answer, and I always love reading the YouTube comments on the YouTube videos, so it's really just humbling more than anything. That's the feeling I get when I actually can appreciate it.
So thanks for a great 2018, everybody. We appreciate you. And let's run down real quick. I had and this is kind of a couple of minutes before the cast started, so this is not going to be well formed. But I just wanted to see what were your kind of highlights for 2018 in the gaming space. I know for us, one of the things that I will kick it off with while you kind of think about that, since I said, it's kind of
I haven't really thought about it.
This was the first year we went to GAMA. And
that was a good time.
And that was a really interesting look into the industry.
For those unfamiliar, GAMA is a trade show in March, usually. It used to be in Vegas, now it's in Reno, and it's industry focused, so there's a lot of publishers and distributors there, but it's kind of centered on retailers.
Yeah.
And we, I think, have a unique perspective in the industry, or not as common as a perspective. So going to that was actually really cool because you get to see a lot of different perspectives. And I think what I didn't appreciate fully was how many different perspectives there are in the industry.
Yeah.
Because you always kind of just assume it's like there's your perspective and there's everybody else.
Of course.
But it's obviously way more nuanced than that. So.
But there's it's a vast, there's the small magic shop that is doing magic only, and they've been doing it for 15 years. And then there's somebody like Travis who's running Millennium Games in New York, and that's a big retail presence. Doesn't have an online
Frisbee,
presence.
Right?
Yeah, right? He's got the old disc golf, which I guess that must be because distributors, there must be some link up where games distribution also distributes disc golf. I mean, because I think Cool Stuff does the same thing. I've seen it in a lot of different spaces. It's weird.
I mean, I think it also could just be that, like, it's a game.
Do tabletop game players lean towards disc golf?
I don't know.
I've played. I mean, it's fine. It's fun.
I know, like Joe Freeman he moved, but he plays disc golf all the time.
So maybe that's a thing.
Maybe this is something maybe the markets are like, all right, we need to end this cast right now. We will be back.
We'll do a disc subscription. And then you have Patrick, who is in the Pacific Northwest and has multiple stores. So and there's different takes on games and whether or not to do board
Yeah, we
games
did a
or
podcast
just
for those
do
too.
Magic the Gathering or to do Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. Or I think we are in a unique place because we're not doing any of those. And we also have an online presence. And we also do content, and that puts us in a bit of a different space. So,
Well, and we don't. I think one of the more striking features is not selling Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh,
Yeah.
which are, as we talked about on whatever episode that was. I should know the episode number now, where we talk about the state of the industry. It was early in the year, but like those are 3 huge games in the space. So we're coming at it from a different angle.
there's nothing more fun than building a bad deck and trying to win with it. You know?
The story of our business.
So we went to GAMA, yeah. So GAMA was great. And it's this game trade association, which is a different thing. We had not really been linked into I think the greater industry inside piece. And seeing the lectures and hearing the talks and seeing, like you said, the different perspectives was a cool thing for us. And for the first time, I think there's a feeling of, a lot of folks out there probably know what I'm talking about, that first time where for your job or for your career, you like find yourself being flown somewhere or flying somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, I feel
that's true. That's
I
the
feel
first time
pretty kind of like, wow, that we're starting to kind of make it as people, that you get to have the experience of like, you're important enough to fly somewhere.
You made it.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, so one thing a lot of people might not know is we go to a lot of shows. So like Gen Con is something we go to a lot. Worlds in Minneapolis is something we went to a lot. And this year in March, we went to GAMA, obviously, but it was the first time we've flown. We usually drive, and that's for a lot of reasons, but it's more economical. We usually take a lot of gear. We need a car. There's a lot of reasons it happens. But the Reno thing is like, that's like a 20-hour drive. So like,
And there's only 2 of us, so it made sense financially too.
even if there are 4, it's like we did. There have been some crazy trips in our past, but that was pretty cool.
And that was also the first time that I had been in a whatever that thing was we were in. Not really a casino, but a resort. Casino
resort.
There's a name
weird.
for it.
Yeah.
But it's basically like a tiny microcosm of human existence that does not need the outside world whatsoever.
Yeah, I think we were 2 days in, and I was like, I haven't seen the sun
Yeah,
in a while. This is weird, and you don't realize it, and
Yeah.
time stops, but also goes quickly. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
So that was the first thing on my list of things. I think that in terms of games that happened in 2018, X-Wing 2nd Edition, obviously. KeyForge, I think, if I were to lay it out, I think KeyForge is probably the most significant development for the industry in 2018. Maybe we're ultimately just FFG fanboys, which we get accused of from time to time. But honestly, if you look at what was the most revolutionary, innovative in the industry. Do you say innovative or innovative? I've heard it both ways.
I say innovative.
Okay, I've heard some important people say innovative.
Yeah, I feel like that reminds
say
me
innovative?
of like.
Innovative, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's a UK thing.
I was gonna say I think it's a British.
Like aluminium.
Because I remember Johnny Ive of Apple. I feel like he's innovative.
Did you see the thing where he's locked in that white box? Have you seen that? So they have all of the footage of him, and it's just a white in the background. And there's this free Johnny Ive like meme that is just assuming they have him locked in a white box. At
That's
Apple,
really
like,
funny.
Designing
That's
product.
actually hilarious.
So KeyForge, I think, is the most. It opens the door to what other publishers might then now want to pursue, which is a unique game element to their lineups and to the to what they're bringing as a publisher. And I hope that we will see more of that.
Sure.
If other publishers can A, figure it out, which I don't think is terribly hard, but B, figure it out on the manufacturing side, which may
That's
take
the
a little
hardest
bit
part,
more
yeah.
work, and be willing to make a bet on it too.
Well, and I think even X2 was a pretty big step in terms of, I hope we start seeing more games that use that kind of interaction with technology.
Yeah.
Which is one of the biggest weaknesses of the physical tabletop format is your inability to change stuff once you print it.
Yeah, that is the problem.
So having elements in your game built in that you can change forever, and because you have technology to do so, I think that's pretty big. I also think Warhammer Champions was a big deal.
Yeah.
That was the first game I saw that had a digital play version of the game that nailed it. That was easier to play on the app than in person, right? And so I hope we continue seeing that as well, because I think, general stance of there are some people that think being able to play digitally will restrict people from actually buying the physical product and playing in real life, whereas I think it's the exact opposite. I think it makes it easier to learn. It lowers the barrier of entry for people that can't make it out consistently. It lets them stay in the loop. Picturing any game that I actively play a whole bunch, even Destiny, it's like there's just times where you have an hour at home. You don't have time to go to the store or go to wherever people are meeting up and do it, but you do have time to play a couple games.
Yeah.
I know tons of people like that. So
Yeah.
I think that was a big deal.
It also, it opened, and whether or not Champions ultimately is going to make it, I think is a reasonable question for us all to be asking. But what it did do is show, at least from the PlayFusion side, what technology can achieve. Even just being able to scan in your whole collection, those kinds of things. That opens, like KeyForge, it opens the door to allowing other publishers and creators to use these concepts and say, how can we take what we liked from this and this and this
And apply it.
It everywhere, yeah.
And I think that's where, if Champions had used the X-Wing lesson, which is let's have the point cost on these champions be in the app.
Yeah.
So that's adjustable. I think they can avoid a lot of problems that they currently are facing, right? Not all of them, but a good number of them.
And so all we can ask is hopefully people learn from all of these things that are launching.
Even just the way they're doing the play testing, and they have people using the app with these rules changes and these rules changing, they can measure it. And then I really liked what they're starting to show on the organized play front, where they have these packs that have one promo in it that is all to full bleed, but they also have the digital scan card, which is a unique prize that you get in the app.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool innovation happening, I think, across the board.
It just takes a while for innovation to find sustainability.
Yeah.
That's always the problem. So I think Champions did a good job, like you said, of at least introducing us to this technology. If I think of smashing those two together, and I think of an online game that takes the approach of KeyForge in the sense that, imagine this, every game I get a randomly generated set of cards. I play it, and then it's gone forever. And then I play a new game, and it's a randomly... So you can start to see how these different concepts can work together to create new experiences in the industry.
Yeah, and I don't know if they'll do it. There is the KeyForge app where you can register the decks and stuff, but I do certainly hope that they enable you to play online. Because I think that game, if you have a math equation that can build decks, that's...
Set it loose.
Pretty crazy for an app, right?
Yeah.
And if you, there's just a lot of implications there. And I think all these things are just the initial stages of where these companies and these games and stuff are heading. But it definitely, we always have a sense that things need to change to continue to grow and evolve, right? And on the publisher end, it does seem like they are slowly but surely pushing forward, right? And I think KeyForge, not just, when you look at the different parts of a game, and I think this is what that KeyForge is really getting at, is game systems are something we've kind of figured out. People can design them, people can make them. There's a ton of them that have come and gone, and a lot that are great, right? Game design is difficult, which is actually producing the cards and balance and all that kind of stuff.
The development of the game, yeah.
But more than anything, it's the real problems with games. Last week's episode of the Magic v Destiny spinoff, but there's a lot of problems in the industry that make it hard for people to get in. And so KeyForge completely destroys those. Just simple game, generic theme, right? $10 entry fee.
Yeah, that's
pretty
an
crazy
problem to start focusing on as a publisher. And the other thing here too is that we had Transformers, which is essentially kind of the first time, and this isn't true across the industry, but the first time I've been involved with something that at least outright said, and from the beginning, basically we're not going to do anything but sell this game as a publisher. Now, I think they've kind of tried to put a little organized play in there, but I think that's a step in a direction that we can evaluate, over the next few years. Is it okay for publishers to completely remove themselves from organized play? Do players actually need that for a game to succeed? If you remove that, do players find ways to do it anyway, and do they do it better? Than the mothership company trying to beam it down. Those are all... So we've had a lot of games that look pretty similar on the face of it, but they're all trying different things. And I can't help but think that the smaller publishers have to recognize that games like Magic, the big three, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, have done a lot with sustainability. They have the engine that is continuing to go. So in order to break into that, you can't just make another similar game with hopefully the same kind of sustainable attempt at maybe, let's say, anywhere from pro players to Friday Night Magic to whatever, and get people to switch. because it's like, well, I've already got this thing and I know it and I own the cards. Why would I switch?
Sure.
So you have to bring something new, but then you also have to have that sustainability piece. And I think a lot of the past few years has been throwing new ideas, but then it's like, that worked, yet now we're left holding nothing because we didn't also have the follow-up, which was, what if this works, and how do we take care of that?
Yeah, well, and I think there's a lot of games that I feel like suffered from that, right? I think Destiny is one of them, which is like, it worked and it worked well. And then you got 6 months in and it was like, what are you doing?
Again,
right?
Development problem, organized play, questionable, just releases.
And release
just simple
capacity,
release schedule
right?
kind of stuff.
It's tough. It's really tough.
We also saw that with L5R, and we also saw in the grand scheme of the industry, I think Netrunner leaving the party was very troubling.
Dropping the mic, yeah.
I mean, it's a natural thing, but it's a major development in the industry because of all of the LCGs that were out there. I feel like it had the most long-term kind of hope for something that would be here in the next 5 to 10 years. And so of all the games to just kind of suddenly drop off the face of the earth, that was a tough one to have.
I feel like the toughest part of Netrunner, we've been playing games forever, and like, you kind of have this, when a game is hot and it spikes and a lot of people are playing it, excited about it, and eventually over time, like, the people get less excited, they move on to other games, and the game slowly kind of like dies off, right? I've seen that happen 1,000 times.
Yeah, it's the story of our childhood.
But what I haven't seen 1,000 times is for that to happen to a game, and then somehow the game like turn around and gather momentum again.
Yeah.
And it felt like Netrunner had done that. Revised core set,
and
the rotation.
It literally did.
Community was coming back alive. Like, it was like on its way, and then bam, smacked in the face.
It's really pretty traumatic.
So it was sad. It was really, it's a travesty. And I think, just for context, Netrunner was an LCG made by FFG. FFG got the license way back. They released it in 2012.
Different landscape.
Before they merged, they got way big, and then they merged with Asmodee. And so they became a very serious competitor to Wizards of the Coast, who owned the rights to Netrunner. The game system originally designed by Richard Garfield, which is crazy to think about.
Fingerprints are all over this industry.
It's just everywhere.
It just doesn't stop either.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So that's a game that was stopped, I think, for a totally different reason, which is like, it started to make the turnaround and then just got shut down for licensing whatevers.
And for the reason that you mentioned, which is another big thing that's starting to happen, people with a lot of cash are taking interest in the industry. I mean, I think it's one of the first times we've started to see so much big conglomerate investment kind of stuff happening, where you have this Asmodee, group and mergers and picking up studios, and now you're kind of painted into this, like, these big companies kind of going against each other with their tabletop gaming wings, whether it's Hasbro or Asmodee or the rest. And, that's something that is and will continue to impact our industry. And as it gets more popular, and because of Gen Con being more and more successful and board games kind of exploding the past 3 or 4 years, that gets people's attention. And that creates a new paradigm for us in this industry, and everybody who's all the way from the end consumer and the products they're receiving to what a publisher can make and chooses to make, and the financial restrictions and responsibilities that they now have that they might not otherwise have had.
Well, and it's even, a basic example of that is that I think if KeyForge had been published in the early 2000s, I'm not sure it would have worked. And not because of the format, but just the reality of like the scale of the market and the number of people playing these games. Where you look at like board games and they have exploded over the past 10 or 15 years. And so you put a game like KeyForge, which is kind of like a board game, card game, kind of, right? You buy your one thing and you can play it. And it just changes what's possible and what you can do, right? And so it's a very interesting, exciting time for the whole space, I think.
Absolutely. You think Root was the winner of the board games this year? As somebody who's completely removed from...
Wasn't Gloomhaven this year? I feel
it was like a late 2017 and then went into 2018.
I just feel like I couldn't get away from it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not that it's bad. I haven't seen it really at all. I have nothing to say good or bad about it, but like...
It looks awesome. I've seen it in play.
Every time once a week I'd walk to the store, someone's playing it. I'd see it in every thread, right?
Yeah, it's great.
That's
a big one. Root was the one at Gen Con that I heard over and over again, and it's been on a lot of the 2018
also,
lists.
I heard about the Mind a lot. which we did play, and that game was great.
Which I own.
Yeah, that game was
It's
simply
really
great.
good.
It was just simply great. One thing that happened this year too, it's a little more two personal notes. One, I got married, so that
great.
and I turned 30, and I saw
job.
Taylor Swift in concert. So basically the trifecta. 30.
You're pretty much
I'm done. Just check. I'm out of here. Drop the mic. But also, this was the year that we went over to a store championship and got first and second.
Oh yeah.
That was just a random, like, we kind of did it. You won with Gungans, and it was like, I mean, it's always, obviously it's not awful to win an event like that. That always feels great. But it is pretty rare that you end up in the finals with someone you travel with or someone that you play a lot with. So that was a cool little moment.
That's what I want to. Let's finish this section off with your favorite gaming moment of 2018. Now, it's hard to beat the Gungans. That was something that I loved so dearly.
Yeah, winning a store championship with Gungans is pretty cool.
And even just like testing it and working it, and that first moment where we realized Arena of Death and how tremendous that actually was, and we both kind of looked at each other and freaked out a little bit.
It's like, that's good.
Those kind of moments are why I love doing what we do. But I have to say that first, there was a certain magic to not the first time I played KeyForge, because it was like, okay, cool, I get it. But it was like the first or second time we were live streaming KeyForge, and there was something that happened where I realized, for the first time, I truly internalized the reality of all of these random decks that I hadn't even fully appreciated, and how much like time I could spend figuring out how to master each one of them, and how incredibly appealing that was. Because like normally there's a card pool, and it's like, all right, I want to try to like master this, but in a kind of an offbeat way.
Sure.
And then I looked at this stack of 8 decks, and I was like, all of these decks are probably not great, like not like the best decks in the world. And I know that they're not that. They don't have anything special. They don't have all these Mavericks or Horsemen or anything like that. But I wonder if one of these decks I could just make awesome and take to the next level. And I realized that if none of those 8 decks were that, I could buy another one. And I started to understand, like, oh my gosh, this is really a never-ending experience for me as a kind of a puzzle solver mentality. And that revolutionized I think after that on the podcast and on the future live streams, I was much more forward about
your excitement
how KeyForge, I think, can and should and will have actual legs moving into the vast future of the hobby. And I hope other people are realizing that too and feel the same way about it. I think the initial kind of take from a giant collectible card game market is going to be framed in a collectible card game mindset. And I think people are getting out of that now and starting to hopefully have the same kind of realizations that I did.
Yeah,
so that was a fascinating moment for me.
I think people are starting to shake that mentality, right? And I think as people come in that don't have that mentality, it's making it even more obvious. But a moment similar to that for me was the first time I played Champions.
Yeah.
So went to Gen Con one night after we were doing our thing all day, came back to the hotel room, and you were like, hey, let me show you this game.
Let me introduce you to this thing, yeah.
And I was like, okay, like Warhammer, fine. Like, that's cool. I've never been a Warhammer person, so like it was whatever. And then we played a game, and then it was like, you want to try that again? It's like, yeah, sure. And then we played again, and then a couple hours later, it's like, this is different.
Yeah.
Right? This game is different, and like it felt like we kind of got that plus KeyForge kind of shot us back to our roots, right? And really forced me at least to start asking why I'm playing any of these games. Because it's really easy to get the ends and the means mixed up with a game. Like I play a lot of Destiny, and so like it's always like a new set comes out, let's analyze it and optimize it and figure out the broken cards and how do we bend and break this and win the regional and stuff. And now it's just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like a Champions.
It's been a tremendous paradigm shift, I think, for us this year. We've always kind of been on the periphery of that split between what is traditionally said as casual and competitive, though again, I think those terms need to be revisited. And we started, there really was, after Gen Con, it was like asking, how do we, people talk about finding the fun when they're like designing a game. How do we find the fun in the games that we're playing? Like there are ways to restrict ourselves so that we have a better time, and we're choosing not to do it, right? And it's like, well, why are we doing that?
Yeah, and it's just because that's what everyone's doing.
And it's what you started with, and it's what the industry's kind of framed it as.
Yeah.
And it's what you've known over
and we also had a several-year phase of LCGs where it was just accepted that everyone has everything. When we were kids, we didn't have everything. We never had everything. So trades were a big deal. Getting new cards was a big deal. But you're being forced to figure out how to use your unique cards, right? Kind of like KeyForge, unique cards.
That's why I love it so
KeyForge
much.
forces it on you, right?
Yeah.
But I think Champions was the first one. It's like, I don't care about the universe. I don't care. I'm not trying to win a world championship here. And we just kind of had fun with it for a while. We just had the starters, so we were forced to be restricted. So that was just a good phase. And it was like a down phase for Destiny. So like I had a lot of time to just do nothing.
And isn't it one of those times when when we didn't have access to all of those cards, when we were like really playing back in our heyday, and the thing we thought would make us the happiest was having a full collection. Oh my gosh, that would solve all of our problems.
That happens in life in every way, right?
So happy. And then you get there and you get to the end of that road, and now we do have the option to own every card. And you start asking, well, why am I not having as much fun as I used to have whenever I achieved the thing I thought would make me happy? And this happens all throughout like different elements of life, right? You don't fully associate what is making something so enjoyable, and you think that it would be more enjoyable if you did X, and yet when you do X, it actually is less enjoyable.
Yeah.
And so it's having the, I guess, presence of mind to say like, well, then let's go back to what was making this fun, even though it might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's kind of like when I was a kid, it's like, I can't wait till I'm an adult so I can eat as many chocolate chip cookies as I want.
Right, yeah.
And now that I'm an adult, it's like, yeah, once or twice eating as many chocolate chip cookies as you want is pretty fun.
Yeah.
But like at a certain point, it's like, this isn't fun anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I want one chocolate chip cookie or two, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to go crazy. I'll enjoy it for what it is. And I think that's really a decent analogy for just the pivot and kind of how we're approaching playing these games, where like, I don't need 50 chocolate chip cookies, right? I just need one.
You don't need the world championship.
No.
Right?
And I mean, like, I think that's, to me, there's, kind of two conflicting ideas being held in my mind right now, which is like, I do enjoy competing and I do enjoy being challenged, right? Mm-hmm. But like when competing becomes the end, that's when the problem happens. Where, if you ever lose sight of why you're doing this thing, that's when you get into trouble.
Yeah, I think that happens all the time.
And it's really easy to do when you just let it go.
Yeah.
And get all the cards and play all the stuff, right? I get ready for the next tournament.
It's like taking that moment to reflect.
Yeah.
Introspect. I think that's a fine conclusion for 2018 too. Anytime you can end a year with a lot of introspection and come out of it going into the next year with hopefully some forward momentum and some changes, then I think you're in a good spot. So
here we are.
Here we are.
2019.
A couple of quick news items. As we said, we're taking a few weeks off. Also, the Archon tokens. Tell me about those, Zach. You know more than I do.
I overheard some talk from over in the operational
side of the company. You got to spy on your own company.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm aware of what's going on. I'm very, very aware. But short version is what I'm really excited about, and it's in the process of happening right now when we record, and it's a moving target, right? So our Archon tokens for compatible with KeyForge, we're pre-selling them. So currently they're pre-order and they say shipping within 3 weeks. And so it literally, while we're recording this, a whole lot more people could just hop on, order, and then this information completely changes. So take it with a grain of salt. But just for general context, we are almost caught up to the pre-orders.
With all pre-orders, right?
So we've shipped most of them. And there have been an insane amount of them. I can't even express my gratitude enough to everyone listening and watching and buying those tokens. The response has been incredible. But we're almost caught up, and essentially what's going to happen is there will come a day when we catch up. Then the product will not be a pre-order. It won't say 3 weeks. It'll just be shipping.
It'll be normal, yeah.
Which we're excited about. We kind of don't. The first product we did pre-orders for really in that kind of way was the data tokens for Netrunner. And ever since then, we've just kind of been like gun shy about it.
There are pluses and minuses. It goes back to the Kickstarter mentality too. There are always pluses and minuses to that kind of an approach.
Yeah. So anyways, we just prefer to actually have them in stock so that when you order them, we can ship them within a day like we do everything else. They show up within a day or two later like everything else that we ship.
Yeah.
And that's how we like. Because, I've definitely been in that situation where like we're trying to remove, as an entity, we're trying to remove the strain and the stress. And then like you order something that you really like. When we ordered as kids, right? Ordered the Dark Sacrifices, the singles, for a big tournament for the Star Wars TCG, and it's like the like intensity of like, oh my God, is it here?
It might be
is
here
it here?
today.
Check the tracking.
Yeah.
So when you pre-order something and we say originally we started pre-selling the Archon tokens, it's like within 6 weeks. It's like that's painful.
Yeah,
like
it's not great.
I don't want to do that. So, anyways, moral of the story here is that. I expect us within the next week to be in stock of those tokens, which means if you pre-order them now, they'll probably ship within a week, although we're only going to promise within 3 weeks because anything can happen. Holidays are crazy. But there will be a point in the very near future where it's in stock. Once it's in stock, if you order it, it'll ship within 1 business day. There is not shipping on Christmas Eve, Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's. That's Monday and Tuesday of the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just be aware of that if you're ordering anything. But I'm really excited. We're almost there.
Yeah, we're almost there, which is great.
And then we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. And then also, some we don't talk about L5R as much as we used to. I think.
Well, stop putting out product.
Yeah, well, that happened, and I mean, we came into the game basically saying like, this seems like a fun game for the right person, and it seems like the kind of game I might want to play once a month or once a quarter, but. I wasn't, certainly personally, I wasn't taken by L5R as this is the next game I'm going to be like into. And I think most of us just kind of said like, yeah, this is a meaty game. You want to sit down, you want to have some tea or coffee or whatever. You want to have a beer.
Yeah.
And it's a longer kind of I treat it as more casual experience. And so L5R went through a lot of movement over the past. I mean, they did the 6-pack 6 weeks. We've now got the new expansion type that's coming out. We have novellas. We have the RPG doing all sorts of stuff. Organized play has been in various iterations that, as we've said, none of us truly appreciate or understand.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember
it's like reading hieroglyphics.
I'm in this space, right? Like, I've played a ton of tabletop games, done the whole tournament thing, designed leagues here, run events, etc. And like, I still never quite grasped, even the intro. It's like, here's how OP is going to work. It was like, I'm not sure how exactly this all works, but like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine people that are just like casually watching or enjoying the game, understanding either. So like, I couldn't tell you right now what's left or right or up or down in terms of OP.
Let me tell you this that's going on. So this is L5R. It is the experiment game for the FFG LCG model. They are trying, this game has been tried a million times. I think, if you want to have my honest opinion, I think they got the license, really wanted to do this game right, and justice for L5R. Hit it out of the gate, big launch, big release, 6-pack 6 weeks, maybe. Then saw, some complaints from the player base and organized play and question marks and card design and question marks and, classic LCG, classic card game kind of thing. And then was like, okay, well, rather than kind of letting this kind of dwindle out, we want to do everything that we can to try to build it to the point that we want it to be. So they just went crazy.
Yeah, well, I think the OP from the beginning, like, with the whole game went crazy. And like,
by crazy, we mean like over the top, or like they just tried a lot of things.
They did all of it.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, everyone put your ideas here on the board for what we could do for L5R. And then everything got approved, right? Like, it was, let's link all 87 things happening here. But the reason I say that is like, kind of echoing some thoughts over the past several weeks of the podcast where it's like, while they went crazy and they had all these ideas into this thing, I just don't think it matters, right? I think it's like screaming into a void, which is just like, that doesn't help what's actually happening, right?
The actual problems.
Yeah, where it's like, there's no amount of prizes that are going to incentivize people to get past the fact that it takes 2 hours to play a game, right? And like, if you're going to travel to an event, it's like, can you play for 8 hours? You play 4 opponents.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Versus like, if you look at KeyForge, right? It's like, they may go crazy with KeyForge. Actually, they did the stream with the OP, which is fascinating. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, the cast. You're talking about the Crucible cast thing? Or
have you seen that?
Yeah,
we should mention what they're going to do in a second. And I would be curious to get your thoughts on it. But the reality is like, when L5R first came out, it was on fire. And it was like, you had none of that stuff going on. And then the real question you have to ask is like, how do we make sure people are enjoying this game? And how do we make sure people keep enjoying this game?
And how do we create new players?
That's the biggest weakness of the LCG.
All of the fanciness in the world is not going to solve the fact that a new player right now has no easy and viable entry point into this game.
Yeah, well, and I think that's when you ask the question, how do you, because to grow the community or stabilize it, you have to have as many people coming in as you have leaving.
Right.
And so you can keep people playing, or you can find ways to get new people. And OP tries to keep people playing, but like at the same time, it's like there's only so many tokens and playmats and promos that like you even want before you just don't care anymore. And if you're not having a really good time or enjoying yourself while you're playing this game, it goes away pretty quick.
Right, and it's the old story of the LCG, competitive LCG model that we've come around to over the next 2018, actually.
I also think, this is just my opinion, man, which is...
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the 6-pack, 6 weeks plan is a total bust.
Yeah.
And not to be like, I mean, just like looking at LCGs and moving forward, right? It's like, I feel like there was a huge energy in the game coming out. There was a ton of energy when there was 6-pack, 6 weeks. And then there was like 4 or 5 months of no organized play, no new product. Mm-hmm. And it was just like...
Yeah, that's a problem.
And like even just in the microcosm that is our store here in Tulsa, the energy level going into the second cycle was immensely lower than the first.
Yeah.
And we went from having 20 or 30 every week to like 10 during that blank space, and it never came back.
Yeah, no, it's gone.
Even when you had another 6-pack, 6 weeks, it's like it's just not back.
Yeah. So I mean, it does a good job of maybe moving the first cycle a lot harder, which is good. And sometimes you got to make those bets, right? You got to try it out. And then you look back and hopefully evaluate it, and maybe that's why they're changing the expansion types.
I was going to say maybe more optimistically is, what do they do now? Because it's a rich universe. The art's great. I think the game is enjoyable for people that want the game that they're getting out of it, but it's not. And that's what's crazy about the OP. It never struck me as a tournament game.
Right.
It's really how I feel about X-Wing as well, where it's like any game that's 90-plus minutes just doesn't feel like a tournament game.
Can we make this the theme of 2018 for us? Isn't this really what it is about, though? Is really looking at it and saying, let's stop with the putting everything into the same paradigm, and let's actually look at what does an LCG need to be? Like, what does a game like X-Wing need to be to get the greatest amount of people involved, or what does a game like L5R need to be? Same with Champions and everything else. It's like, where can we actually not just change little things like whether we do playmats or hollow foil cards,
but like conceptually start over at the top.
Yeah. Do we need prizes?
Yeah.
Do we need organized play? Who's responsible for it?
I think that's why, like with L5R, right? It's like, and I'm excited to see what they do with this expansion they're putting out. But like, it is such a thematic game, and like story seems so important, and they're willing to let the players affect the story. So like, it seems so crazy to me that your once a month release is not come in, play a game while everyone else plays a game. You're going to contribute to the storytelling, and everyone's results are going to get reported, and that's going to affect future storylines.
Yeah,
and it's like basic.
Yeah, keep it.
If the entry, because I own all the L5R stuff through the Phoenix Clan pack when that happened.
Yeah,
and it's like if it were a once a quarter, I show up, I play a game. I contribute to the story. I hang out with all the people that play L5R, and then I don't think about it again for another quarter. I think that's where most people would live with that game.
Yeah,
and may be living still.
Well, these are good questions. I wanted to bring L5R to the attention because they're speaking of throwing things at the potential wall. You have the design a card to the community. So I think this is. The attempt here is to go to that community-driven place because I think returning to the roots of what made L5R so popular up to now is the strong community, wearing costumes at tournaments, like really being in the universe. And so it makes sense that you would say, well, if we need to change direction, what has worked in the past? And it's like, go get community-driven things going on. And so we have an example of this where they're doing a create a card series. And so everybody, it's very simple. You got a Google poll or whatever you call those down here at the bottom that you can log
Google
into.
form,
Yeah, we've done this before.
Yep.
And just people vote on various things. Name, like persona, like what's the aesthetic of this character. They get brought into the universe as a card.
That's
and
cool,
then you
right?
keep going. We did that for like Plugged In Tour for Netrunner, kind of a version of that. And I think this is a great thing to start looking at, right?
Yeah. Well,
this is a cool idea.
I think it's really cool, just the concept of community level involvement on a high level, whether it's, you across the board, you vote online, you have tournaments or you have events where every game contributes to a story or whatever, kind of like with the Plugged In thing they did. I think that's, if it were me with L5R, I would lean so into the story, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it seems like, with the RPG and the novellas and the community-driven things,
That they're going that way. Yeah.
seems to be that way. Who knows if it had been that way from the very beginning?
What does that look like?
What does that look like? But, hindsight's 1,000 by 1,000.
What do you think about the KeyForge OP? How familiar are you with that?
I watched like the first probably 5 to 10 minutes just to see what was going on, and I was happy. Like, it's cool that the FFG's actually producing this thing. It looks good. I think they're doing a great job with it. We have, for the first time, probably the most clean connection with a design team and its community, and you actually have the seemingly like weekly style updates happening. And I don't know the content. What did they talk about?
So they're basically talking about the OP structure in general, and a lot of times, in the FFG world, that's Store Championship, Regional, National Championship, Worlds, constructed, built.
Please tell me they're constructing that. KeyForge.
Yes and no. The remnants are there, I think.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things that I thought they're doing it uniquely with KeyForge, right? One is that every deck has what's called a power level.
Okay.
And so there are going to be events at local stores and stuff where it's like, if you basically, how you do at this event will determine, will rank up this deck, right? And once it gets to power level 5, it can't go backwards. But then the ability to have events and event series, and whether it's a store championship or a regional or some kind of, right now the game's in the age of discovery, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Event, right? Every store gets to host a launch event or a new set event or whatever. But having events that both basically have a power level ceiling. So like you could have local events be power level 5. So once a deck gets power level 5, you got to have a new deck.
Okay.
So there's no
That's cool.
you have your double horseman crazy deck and you just keep playing it and smashing people with it. Then there's also events like the World Championship where maybe you can only use decks with power level 50 or higher.
Yeah.
Like there's a floor.
Yeah.
So that you have to basically go to the other organized play events to level up your deck.
Yep.
To even be able to participate in
if you're going to do a competitive organized play, that seems like a pretty fine way to do it.
That's pretty cool, where it's like you have a deck and you have to take it through the process, right? Like you have to play some local events, you have to do well at some regional events, and then now you get to play it at nationals. You can't just like show up to nationals with a deck you didn't register and no one knows about.
That's fair, yeah. You can just buy it off eBay and roll to town.
Yeah, but then the other things they were talking about is like, so when you register a deck, you get a shard. Every 18 amber shards, you get a key. The two things they were talking about is the amber shards basically being spendable at organized play events for specific things. So it's like there's maybe an alt art that you can only get by spending 10 shards or whatever.
Cool.
And then the keys being used to get access to events. So it may be that you have to spend 5 keys to get into this thing.
And the only way you get keys is ultimately by buying decks?
Currently.
Okay.
But I don't think they mentioned this specifically, but it was like implied that you could potentially win keys or win shards.
Right, okay, like, yeah.
Or like when you're leveling up a deck, like if you get to level 50, it's like, you get 27 shards.
Okay,
that kind of a thing.
I see.
So what it really does though is and I'm hopeful that their organized play will lean heavily towards the like local casual scene in my dream world. Where you can basically just show up every week, play some games, and like earn, right? And just essentially it encourages or incentivizes participation, and not necessarily just winning, and really discovery. I think that's they kind of seem, the whole video hints back to that, where it's like they're going to reward discovering more decks, discovering more events, and like you might get special stuff by playing in 10 different states.
that's cool. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we'll see what all they do. But there was just some clever little things where they were. The idea of like a power level ceiling and cap was really interesting to me.
That's, like I said, for a competitive take on something, that is a really good way to make it work. Because I'm thinking like, and I've recently, like this past weekend, about once, I guess at this point, about once a year, Robert and I will get into Diablo 3 again.
Yeah, you guys did that.
For like...
Any good drops?
Yeah. See, it's the craziest thing because the game is just, it's a treadmill that you're just running so that you can get better at running. That's all it is. There is no end game.
Yeah.
Like you're just, because once you get like really to the final iteration of everything, you've got all the gear you want, the game is pretty much over for you for that character. So you either start over on the treadmill or
you keep running.
You keep running for no reason, basically. Which when you realize that, like there's some, it's like, well, that's where you get to that question, well, what is the point?
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, you have to be finding the fun in the running of the treadmill, not being pointed towards any particular end goal. Because once you get there, it's actually bad. Like, you're done. So you stop enjoying that character once you've achieved it. And that's where with like the Archon decks, it makes sense that it's kind of that treadmill idea where it's like, I think I have a deck that is really good, and I'm good with it. And I have to make the decision if I'm going to essentially take that thing and start, leveling it up, gearing it up, if you will, to reach that final destination, which is maybe the last time I can really play this deck in a big event, and then I can't ever play it again because it's either too powerful or it does the Ascension thing that they've talked about or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I better be enjoying the journey of that. And to me, traveling around to different places, playing in different events, meeting different people, and seeing what other decks are in those fields sounds like a very enjoyable run of the treadmill for me, right?
Yeah.
So I would gladly, I could see myself making that choice. I play casually for a while, and then it's like, with one deck, I think this deck
I'm
could
just
go.
gonna cruise around and level
I think this
bad boy
could
up.
do it.
But that's also where, like, I'm picturing if you have an event that's like power level 50 decks only, right, or above, whatever that means. It's kind of cool to like, because it becomes about the deck, right, and not about the player or the building of the deck. In terms of like, I think naturally it's like in the app in Champions, right, which is where you have these tiers of play, and it's like I leveled up to platinum, right, and I got to triple platinum, double standard, diamond, whatever. I don't know, it's crazy, but you get to platinum, right, and it's like there always came a point for me where I would have a deck and I would get to a level, and I would win a game and I'd lose a game, and I'd win a game and I'd lose a game, and I was kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now I got to figure out how to like go to the next level, right? But like in KeyForge's case, I think there are decks that will just get to a certain level.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, this is where this plays.
Yeah, it's like this is a level 75 deck, and like either my skill as a player or this deck itself just can't, I can't get around this curve. But that's actually kind of cool because like now it's like we both show up and we both have a power level 75 deck. It's like let's very quickly, even just our decks are ranked.
Yeah.
So that if we're playing, it's like, oh, I'm new, I'm discovering if this deck is any good or not. And then it's like, well, we each have a 25 power level deck. Let's play those against each other and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And it gives you, even non-competitively, just a way where if we each have 50 decks, we can actually create good games without chains.
Yeah.
Because we have a way of establishing where these decks are.
Yeah, it's like, you got anything around power level 5 to 8?
Yeah,
and
like,
it's
let's
like, yeah, I've got these
play
three
a
decks.
10, let's power level 10
Yeah.
game and like do this thing.
And then sometimes you have the clash of the Titans, and
No.
this is my level 50, and you're level 55.
Well,
and
and
it's
like imagine beating like a level 75 with a brand new deck.
Yeah, it's like, whoa,
Oh my god, I got some heat
this must
here.
be good.
But that's also where like I don't know if I feel like they said this. Not sure if it's true or not. But I think a deck levels and those levels stay. So
Okay.
if I got a deck to level 50 and traded it or sold it or whatever, it doesn't go back down. But that's also a way where like you can't hide the goodness of a deck.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like,
Yeah.
I'll trade it to you, now it's back to 0, and then like go win your local whatever with it.
Sure.
But I like the idea of trying to keep local as pure as possible. Where it's like maybe you practice a bunch not at a tournament, but like if it's level 0, it means that like this thing is fresh,
Yeah. It actually has never been in an event before.
which is cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
All right, I'm in. I'm in. I get
I'll
it.
do it.
Well, let's get to some questions, shall we?
let's
Use
do
the
it. Let's round out the
hashtag
year.
AskCovenant to ask us a question, and we will happily answer it on the cast here, which we're about to do for a number of people who have done that on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or
Twitter.
Twitter.
Your favorite. There's an inside joke there. Steven doesn't like Twitter. I love it.
I've never understood Twitter.
Great.
I mean, it's one of those platforms that actually, you know what? To make a terrible transition to this. It's kind of, Twitter has gone through the change that I think we're looking for organized play and just general approach to tabletop gaming to go through, which is like, it starts out, it's a thing, and then everybody thinks it's going to be like this kind of thing, but then eventually it's not that kind of thing at all.
And it's okay not being
And
that
you
kind of
realize
thing.
it's just always been about 160 characters of information.
Yep.
And it doesn't need to be any more than that.
It's correct.
And I feel the same way with tabletop, where it's
Yeah.
like, it just needs to be people having a good time playing games together, not winning the $6,000
doesn't need to be
qualifier,
anything more.
right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, and that's, I think that's completely true.
all right. Well, I'm glad we're working together.
Yeah, that works out. Pans out.
Joshua Swaim, I've been keeping up with all of your KeyForge content. Awesome stuff. Thank you, Joshua. And I was just curious. Hashtag AskCovenant. There it is. Zach,
Whoosh.
why do you dislike the Martian House? They happen to be one of my favorites with really fun cards like Feeding Pit and Plague Master, and yet you don't like them.
I don't.
What are you, a communist?
Yeah, that's what that means.
Joshua didn't say that. That
I
was for me.
actually-
Sorry.
I thought about this a little bit because I read this question last week when I was reading through comments or whatever. But
I do that?
comments? No. I like reading some like comments on the podcast because
Yeah.
like when I do the question at the end of the show where they answer, like
Yeah.
I like seeing what those are.
That's why you like Twitter so much.
Yeah, I just like seeing what people think. Anyways, I think the thing that turns me away from Martians or Mars, the house, is that of all the things in KeyForge, it's the only house that feels like it's from our universe. Mm-hmm. So Martians and Mars in general feels like a very like Independence Day Earth, like something I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
Whereas every other house in the game, like this, feels like nothing. Right?
Totally different.
I mean,
yeah.
it's maybe got some like Cthulhu like vibes
yeah.
ish, but Brobnar, I mean, there are giants, but like it's its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Mars is the only one that just kind of feels like it was taken from like.
What about Sanctum? Knights?
Yeah,
You
but like
know?
that doesn't feel this. I mean, they're like the spirits and the angels and the defenders, right? And like,
That's a very human Earth kind of thing, you know?
but like, there's not. Mars is real Mars. There's Mars.
There's a Mars planet.
There's a Mars, and like the Martians look like the Mars that we have invented, right? Like the little green guys, little green men. Like that's what they are. And they have the spaceships, and they have the abductions,
Yeah,
and
the
like,
saucers and that kind
like
of thing.
Sanctum. Like even thematically, when you're looking at the art, right? It's like nothing that I've ever read really. I mean, there's knights in every medium possible.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. It's just it feels like all those are unique. And all those are like their own thing.
I agree with that.
And then you look at
entirely.
Martians and it's like, this is just an Earth idea that was transplanted here, which is kind of fine,
It seems a little out of place, though.
but it just feels off.
It does seem a little out of place. I will go with that.
Yeah, and like-
if you remove Mars from the equation, everything else seems to be in a pretty nice, like it seems to exist in a unity of theme and flavor.
I wonder if Mars was the house because they talk about adding a seventh house. Mm-hmm. I wonder if that was the one that was added. And I was like, we need to do this quick. It's like,
Yeah,
what's the
maybe.
concept we're going to use here?
Maybe.
But like I don't know, it just thematically feels off. And I'm playing KeyForge for fun and like theme.
What an idiot.
So like, it's just a theme. Like, it's fine. I'm not against it, but it's like, what a dummy. But like, Mars is
What are you
like,
thinking, man?
Mars is also just generally a theme that in play, like I think their cards are awesome, but like, it's just a theme I'm not that into, and it's a theme that feels off. So like, it just doesn't attract me.
I don't think there's a lot of people. That's a lot of ways to say that in a negative way. Like, it's like 7 negatives. I think a lot of people agree with you. You know what I mean? I don't think a lot of people don't not disagree with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not offensive. I don't care if you like Mars. To each his own. But like,
John likes him.
John loves him. But he also loves Mars in like Earth times, right? He
Like
played
normal,
Martians
you're an Alien fan in normal times too, right?
Yeah, so like,
That's where, dude, if we had like a dinosaur faction, I would be all over that.
we're definitely gonna get dragons and
We were
dinosaurs and
obsessed
ghosts
with some
and
dinos.
zombies and vampires and
That's an Earth concept I could get behind.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
dinosaurs with guns strangely would not feel out of place like Mars does.
But I feel like you could do dinosaurs in a way that's not Earth, right?
Sure.
Do dinosaurs we've never seen before. Don't do a T-Rex.
Not a T-Rex or a Triceratops. Or at least don't call them that. Yeah.
But I mean, like, do your own spin on it.
Okay.
Like, even when I'm looking at, like, Untamed, it's like they don't have a tiger. They have, like, Mighty Tiger with, like, he's got weird, or, like, the Niffle Ape. Like, it's an ape.
Yeah.
But, like, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, you get
All
it.
right.
All right. Next up.
Well, that's a thing.
Winkler, using the hashtag AskCovenant, says, I think you guys have touched on the problem a bunch of times that could be helped. So many CCG games are advertised as competitive, talked about on podcasts as competitive, and pushes at LGS's, local game stores, as competitive. My wife and I play Destiny, buying 3 boxes of boosters and then trying to build 16 decks out of the cards available. That forces us to use lots of suboptimal cards and limit how many of the primo cards are in any one deck to make each of them competitive with each other. What if we get more podcast content about using these amazing games like Destiny, Champions, and KeyForge as games focused on fun first and winning second? You guys are doing that a lot, but you seem to be in the minority that I've been able to find. Winkler, I cannot tell you how much I love this comment. I think this is 100% correct.
This is the 2018 recap right here.
It really is.
What this is.
I mean, when I'm thinking about Destiny, I love Destiny. I have played competitive games my whole life. And the reality is that, like, I can compete and have a great time not playing the way we currently play. And if I could only ever play draft again, I would be fine. If it was literally like my dream scenario, I was talking about it this morning, is like, pick a character starter of a character you really like, Vader, Obi-Wan, Grievous, whoever. And then it's like, you're going to get 1 pack a week. And it's like, build your deck. And that's going to happen for 3 or 4 months. We're all going to play this way. And then that resets with a new set, and we do it all over again.
Well, I'm thinking even, this idea of buying 3 booster boxes and trying to make 16 decks sounds more fun than anything I've ever done with Star Wars Destiny in my life. Maybe even any collectible game. It's like alarming to me that there are entire worlds of experience with the same products that I haven't even considered. Like, how fun does that sound? If you and I were to have 3 booster boxes, we sit down, let's say we each get 16 for the sake of the number, coins or something. And then I'm gonna build 8 and you're gonna build 8. And we split our characters and we kind of figure that out. And then it's like, if I really want a card, like I want 2 copies of this card, I might like bid this coin. And then like, it's like, well, you could also bid the coin, and then I have to either bid more or I lose the cards. So we have to find a way to like get the cards and decks that we really want together.
Yeah.
And then maybe we have to play all 8 of them, so we can't just totally make one bad. And
I mean, if you picture like, this is an 8-week session, right? And it's like, we open 3 boxes, we sort the cards, and we put them over here. And then it's like, we literally draft 1 card at a time.
Yeah.
From those cards, a 30-card deck. Deck number 1. Do it again, deck number 2.
So cool.
And so it's like, we're both going after the best cards, but also like...
For that deck, though.
By the end of it, so you want to actually draft decks that like, I can pick cards that you're not even going to want. Especially later in the draft, like 4 decks in. It's going to get slim pickings.
That's so cool.
But like, then you play those 8 games, and it's like, that's a crazy experience. And I think there's a lot of ways to approach that, and there's draft cubes, and there's all kinds of stuff. But like, the short version is, we should be asking the question, how do we have the most fun playing this game with each other, not how do we build the best deck? And that is the shift that needs to happen.
Or even asking the question at all. Question at all, rather than saying like, oh, it's a competitive card game. Here's how those are done.
Well, and that's what, like, there's micro versions of this that happen on a competitive level as well, right? Which is like, I'm going to a regional on January 5th in Dallas, and I'm playing the one in Tulsa here on the 19th of January. And I'm past the point of just like being like, what's the best deck? I just don't care. I want to do something crazy and fun, and like, I want to win with it.
So you're running the Gungans, clearly. You said it. Are you coming around? You might be coming more to my side of the table on this.
Yeah.
Winkler, stick around for 2019. I think we'll all be in this space together, because this is something we are kind of obsessed with right now. All the conversations seem to be in this direction.
Yeah,
as you can tell from the stream of consciousness on this very podcast.
That's right. And I think if you stay tuned to what we're doing, 2019 will be a good time. I think you'll enjoy what we're doing in 2019.
Let's move on to Patrick Sharkey. With the growing popularity of esports, I've heard many people trying to draw comparisons between the traditional sporting industry and the video game industry. I'm curious to hear your take on how tabletop fits into the conversation. What comparisons, if any, do you see between tabletop, physical sports, and video games? Is it fair to call a board game a form of sport? Finally, do you feel that tabletop deserves the same level of prestige as physical sport? If so, how do we get there? Thanks so much for all you do. First-time commenter, long-time fan.
Well, first off, Patrick, thanks for commenting.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
And leaving a
Welcome.
question.
Welcome to the comments section.
Here we
Hope
go.
it treated you well. Let me kick this off here with a couple of thoughts, quick thoughts from Steven on this. One, we have a tabletop game that is probably the most popular thing in the world, which is chess, or even Go. I think both of those are very, very popular games and have been traditionally for a very long time. Even so, there is a tremendous lack of people who have any interest in watching it, period. Personally, or maybe obviously, because how many people know the rules to chess? Because if you don't, it means nothing.
Well, and know the real rules of the game of chess.
Right. So you got to know the rules, and then you've got to know like the deep strategies that are going on. You've got to know things like on and off book, which is terrifying and fascinating and complex. You've got to, and it's not exciting.
Well, I was gonna say, like, it's one thing to watch a machine of an athlete jumping through the air to catch a ball, getting hit midair, and somehow getting both of his feet to land in bounds before going out. But like watching someone pick up a piece of chess and move it across the board.
One piece of chess.
A piece of chess. You know, like a chess piece. Like, got him.
Just one piece of it.
It's like, the thing is, like, that just cannot be as watchable.
No way.
And
like, it's not even, no way.
I think the difference, and this is like just on the outset, right? Like, I don't think, it may be possible that there can be esports for tabletop, and that's fine. But like, the beautiful thing about tabletop is that you don't have to be a world-class athlete. You don't have to be a genius. Anybody can play. It's welcome to everybody, right? So you can play chess. My 8-year-old niece can play chess. My 80-year-old grandpa can play chess, right? There's no limiting factor. Even like Thanksgiving football, it's like at some point I have cousins and nephews that are too young, and I have uncles and stuff that are too old.
Yeah.
And so like it's not inclusive, right? But everyone can get around the table and play insert name of tabletop game here. So maybe esports exists, but like I don't think it's where it goes, right?
And that's the other to that point, and then you have like that step down where we're talking about video games like Dota or League of Legends. Like, you can be too young to play that. You can definitely be too old to play that. If you're, and the disparity in skill between somebody who knows what they're doing in League of Legends and somebody who's new, you'll get crushed every single time. Whereas like if we sit down to a game of Tokaido or KeyForge or The Mind, where we're able to have a shared experience regardless of our skill levels or experience levels, and everybody have an enjoyable time, that's where the benefit and beauty of the genre is. So like, again, just trying to pigeonhole things into things that are not built for them is probably not a winning strategy. So I don't see tabletop games being the next great esports thing. I think it's really fun to watch like role-playing. And it's fun to watch role-playing because it's just improv acting.
Yeah.
And anybody who doesn't know the rules of Dungeons & Dragons can enjoy that.
Sure.
Anybody who doesn't know the rules of football can watch it and get interested in it. Same thing with basketball or baseball or anything else. People that know the rules of baseball oftentimes don't even get interested in it, but that's a different case. But there are boundaries to what is enjoyable, and I think that tabletop has an immense amount of boundaries when it comes to spectating versus a physical game. And then in the middle is a video game, which is flashy and cool, and you can kind of understand that you're trying to kill this thing.
I think a video game is very watchable.
Yeah.
It can be very watchable, right, as is being proven by esports. But I also think there are some tabletop games that are inherently better for watching. Mm-hmm. And it is possible that there are games that become esports that are spectator, that if the quality was good enough and the commentary was good enough, the average person could just quickly learn the rules and follow along, and like it's very, very obvious what's going on.
Yeah.
And so I think it's possible, but I don't think 99.99999% of tabletop games are ever going to get there or should aspire to that. And I think what makes tabletop truly something significant and special is that it isn't that, right? It is the all-encompassing, all-welcoming kitchen table.
It's right here and it's intimate.
Yes, and it's involving, not watching, right?
Right.
Like it's participating and not watching. So
yeah.
We'll see.
Maybe it'll go that, and probably won't go that
All
direction.
right, next question. Brennan Jinx. I wonder if he's from Jinx. As an X-Wing player who plays primarily the Rebels, I'm extremely disappointed that, I'm kidding, that Wave 2 and 3 have nothing new for the Rebels. There isn't much development for the Empire either. Do you think the lack of development for the original factions is going to be a problem for the game moving forward?
You're an Empire player, tell me.
I am. No, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think what happened is they put a metric load of content in the conversion kits so that people who had invested tons of money in the original game wouldn't feel like they'd invested money in products they couldn't use. What that also means is they are making First Order, Resistance, the Separatists, and the Republic their own factions. They're coming from nothing. They have First Order and Resistance have way smaller conversion kits comparatively because they have a lot less ships out. And so I think the first year and a half, you're going to see a lot of development for those factions to get them kind of on parity with the Rebels and the Empire. And then I think, being a huge Star Wars fan, you have to be excited that the Mandalorian TV show is coming out. They're announcing details about that. Resistance is a TV show is happening. What else have they announced? There's another one they've announced. Clone Wars is getting more episodes, and
there's so many things I want to
there's
talk about right here.
2 movie series that are going to come out that are completely disconnected from this timeline and the saga. So, I think the Rebels and the Empire will continue getting more ships in the universe, and then I think that will be reflected in the physical tabletop game. So I think it's just a matter of, if it were me, which it is me, I would pick ships from each faction from each era and play that. So I'm playing Empire, First Order, and potentially Republic. And so no matter what's coming out, I have something
going on.
But for me, it's nice. It's like this wave came out, and it's like I got the First Order conversion kit and a ship, and that's it.
Yeah,
I don't need all of it.
And that's the thing is, it depends on your approach too, and because you have to understand the thing that FFG has to decide is how much content do we give old players up front to make the transition in second edition and get a lot of content and satisfy them to make the move. Like, I'm happy I did this. But then that means that content that would have been released maybe over the next 6 to 12 months is all being released all at once. And so you buy that, you start using it, and now you have to wait for new content. And so maybe you're less excited about the game. It's a tough back and forth because you could really make people upset up front by not giving them enough content and then really lose them over the time with less exciting content. So you got to make those choices.
But I think
always an X-Wing. If you're an X-Wing player, you're always an X-Wing player, though.
That's right.
You'll come back once that Empire release
But that's where
happens.
the Republic and the Separatists are getting their factions, and I think a lot of people are excited about those. Totally new factions we've never seen before. So I wouldn't be concerned. I think you will start getting more Imperial stuff mid to late next year, probably. I'd be surprised. They wouldn't just establish a faction and then be like, because they see it as a miniatures game.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, we're done.
Done.
But the other thing is that Rebellion and Empire currently have a finite amount of ships. There's a
problem.
That's what Armada ran into hard. It's there's only so many capital ships in this universe.
Whoops.
Okay, we're kind of out now. You guys want to do the Superstar Destroyer? It's 12 feet long. Anyways,
final question, Joe.
What was the Star Wars thing you were going to mention?
Oh, I was going to talk about Last Jedi and have that conversation, or the prequel. I was going to say all sort of remakes and everything.
Yeah.
Joe's Pizza 11B asked Covenant, have you guys ever considered creating a storage solution product for card games? Yes. I've not really been completely satisfied. That was me saying yes, as me, not as Joe's Pizza. Continuing as Joe's Pizza now, I have not really been
This is some good marketing.
completely satisfied with anything I've tried just yet. I myself am an Arkham LCG player, and keeping sets separate and easy to find has been frustrating, which it is. Depending on how deep you want to go into theme, a single product can be applied to a bunch of different games that you guys support, especially if it was just a TC theme, like those playmats I hope become available again. You guys keep saying that, we'll do it. Keep up the great content and products. Thanks. Thank you, Joe's Pizza. That's a great comment. We appreciate that. Definitely looking at storage solutions. That's something actually going into the next year that is very much on our radar. We want to expand that. We want to make the products that we find lacking. And right now, I've got this card box of cardboard, and it's not. I don't like it.
It's not great.
It's not great, and as practical as it is, it doesn't make me want to get in there and sort cards and get after it. So hopefully, we can find a solution. We're actually actively looking at some right now. And we'll certainly release that when it's ready, if those things ever be ready. But storage is a big problem, I think, right now that we can take a look at.
I think storage and deck boxes in general are just they're fine for, again, they're built for what the industry is built for, right? Which I think is tournaments. And it's like they're fine for a couple decks and enough tokens to play, and then that's it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you have 15 KeyForge decks, there's not a great answer for you, really.
Right.
Or if you are playing Arkham, there's a lot of specifics.
Or if
there.
you want an immersive experience,
Sure.
right? Again, it's aimed at like, it doesn't matter what it looks and feels like really, because you're just gonna go play a tournament.
You may have forgotten this in the years it's been since you've seen it, but in Force Awakens, the lightsaber that Rey gets is in this like wooden chest box.
I don't remember anything about that movie.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just gonna get a replica of that, and it's like my Destiny deck is just gonna be in this like.
You put some LEDs and then
Like some dust comes out.
That's beautiful.
Anyways,
Well,
hey,
yeah.
I have a question I'd like to end on.
Yeah,
If you
well,
don't
I'd
have
like to
one.
just say, are you about to give it? So I would like to wish everybody a very, very great holiday season. However that manifests for you, and a Merry Christmas and the other holidays that I'm not nearly as familiar with. I think Hanukkah's around here somewhere. Is there another one? There's a couple that I'm missing.
Hanukkah's over.
Is it already done?
Yeah, it's like 1st of December.
You know, actually, so Colby,
Saturnalia as
I had a friend. I have a friend who converted to Judaism, Colby. His wife was originally raised Jewish, and he converted. And I was talking to him on the phone, and I was like, "Hey, it's Hanukkah," and he was like, "Yeah, it's Hanukkah." And I was like, "Is it 8 crazy nights? You know, like Adam Sandler told us it was?" And he's like, "No, not at all. It's just going to somebody's house, eating some food, and having a good time."
Lighting a candle?
I feel like lighting a candle. So I feel like I was lied to. It's not nearly as crazy as I had been led to believe.
Yeah, it's really not crazy. it's not how they roll.
Like most things.
Yeah.
So anyway, whatever your holiday and however you celebrate and whatever that is, we wish you all the best, and stay warm and stay happy, and we'll catch you in the new year.
That's right, and really just super grateful that you've been listening and watching and commenting and ordering from us and just following along. Really appreciate it. Question, we always ask questions at the end of the show, and we love reading your response. At least I guess I love. According
We
to
do.
He's like, you read the comments? Anyways, I love
Wasting
reading.
time.
I love reading everything all of you say, the good and the bad. I mean, it's really appreciated all the input. So I'd love to know what was your favorite or most meaningful moment in any way regarding tabletop in 2018. And I look forward to reading about all those as we take a break here for the next week or two. So until next time, keep playing.